I remember many years ago, I was playing a cover show and I was asked to do some extended soloing over a really common country tune that somebody in the crowd had requested. It was like Folsom Prison Blues or something like that. Just a really common, easy 1-4-5 kind of tune. No crazy chord changes or anything like that. And I remember figuring out live in front of, dozens of people that my entire currency as a rock and metal guitar player was now worthless whenever I entered the realm of country music playing. I tried using all my major scale stuff that I knew technically worked on paper and it sounded stupid. I probably resorted to just playing the same old blues licks that I was playing over rock songs and kind of limped my way through it. And it was fine, but I remember leaving that gig and going home and just being like, okay, I need to figure out how to fake my way through country playing in case this situation happens again. And I know a lot of you rock and metal shredders out there have been in that same situation. And it can be kind of intimidating to get into country playing if you don't regularly listen to it, because I don't either. But I have found a really easy trick that you can use to modify something that you already know inside and out and start busting out some pretty convincing sounding country licks, like these. If your country playing sucks, this is the video for you. I'm Uncle Ben, and this is why you suck at guitar. Well, hey there kids, it's your country buddy, Uncle Ben. So the easy trick I'm going to show you guys today is a way to take your current rock and metal and blues vocabularies and start twisting one little thing to give it a little bit more of a country accent, so to speak. Now, you're not exactly going to be replacing, Brent Mason on any sessions or anything like that anytime soon, but this is good enough to help you limp your way through the occasional country song that you get asked to play on. But it's good enough, it's smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like it. As always, this video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Sign up today. Even for just $1 a month, you're going to get access to downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more. This week, everybody who supports my channel is going to get tabs to go along with this lesson, as well as a really simple country backing track that I made to help you guys get these concepts going and working in your own playing. It's just a simple thing. It's in the key of A. It goes over an A chord, a D chord, and an E chord, kind of like what you heard in the intro, and just loops that progression over and over. I'm putting that up at a higher tempo, like what I played in the intro, and a low speed too. That way you can take your time with these ideas and really get them going with your playing. All those things and more are waiting for you over on that Patreon page, so don't delay. Sign up today. Gear-wise, today I'm playing the coolest telly on earth, my Sir Modern T. Isn't that thing just absolutely beautiful? And I'm playing through the Fractal Audio Axe-Fx 3. Okay, so here's the fastest way to understand how all this stuff works. Start off here with your typical A minor pentatonic scale, the one that you've used in every blues rock tune that you've ever learned, right? Now that scale right there has a handful of certain intervals in it. It's got a root, a flat third, a fourth, a fifth, a flat seven, and a root. And those just repeat throughout there. Now there's one particular interval in there you guys need to really focus on, and it's that flat third. Inside of that first position scale box that you know, there's 3 of them, okay? So there's one right there, one right there, and one right there. Again, think about those 3 notes. The C note here, the C note here, and the C note here. Those are the notes I want you to really focus on. Okay, there's this thing that happens in country playing. It's this certain accent that we use where if we're playing over major chords, we love the sound of that flat third coming up a half step to a regular third or major third. It's as country as a chicken coop the minute that you hear that sound of a major chord and a flat third ascending to a regular third. And if we take that A minor pentatonic scale that usually sounds so bluesy and stuff, and every time we touch one of those flat thirds, we're just going to simply slide up a half step. Okay, so listen to this. I'm going up, I can do the same thing. Every time I touch a flat third, go up a half step. Sounds like super authentically twangy right away. And all that we did is take something that you already know and make a slight modification to it. I look at these kinds of things as learning how to speak with different musical accents, right? Like if I was trying to teach you guys how to talk like a, East Tennessee quasi-redneck guy like myself, I would give you a simple tip. Take everything that you're saying, and every time you say a verb that ends with G, like I'm walking, just drop the G off. I'm walking, right? Just by modifying that one thing off of language you already had on hand, it starts to sound more like you're speaking with that accent. And this is no different. You already know the pentatonic scale. Now every time you touch that flat third, take it up a half step to being a regular third. It's that simple. Now right there I showed you another way to do that. A lot of us, whenever we play the minor pentatonic scale, instead of using this shape, we use that kind of winged shape where we put the flat third here instead. It'd look like this. Right? It kind of puts you in position to do like every Angus Young lick, right? But if you play that flat third, going up a half step to a regular third, now it sounds really nice and redneck. It's actually that simple. Okay, so that's the framework. Minor pentatonic, but with this lilt on the flat third, right? From there, you can build on this and expand to other stuff that you already know. Because you guys know from playing rock and blues that if you can use the minor pentatonic, you can probably get away with using the blues scale too, right? That has that flat 5 in there. That has some nice tension in there. And if you combine that blues scale with its flat 5 with this like flat third, regular third thing, listen how cool and country it sounds. Really freaking cool. It's like instant country sounding. I used that flat 5 blues scale thing a couple times in the licks I'm going to show you next. But you can also keep modifying this and think about this. If you ever use the kind of like Dorian hybrid pentatonic thing, where we play like with the 6 in there, like the Santana scale. I've heard a lot of people call it that. That works great with this little accent change that we're talking about too. So pretty much any of the stuff you can get away with in your blues and rock settings, use that. Just pay attention to where those flat thirds are and yank them up to a regular third. I keep really pointing that out and emphasizing that it goes up. This accent doesn't hardly ever go down. I can't really think of any time that I've heard somebody go from third to flat third. Like that doesn't really sound country. That sounds more like Back in the Saddle Again or something, right? So make sure you always make this accent go up. And you're gonna be sounding country as a chicken coop in no time. So now that you know the trick, let's hear those licks again at stepdad speed. Playing that over the slow version of the backing track that I'm putting up on the Patreon page that you can get for $1 a month. And it's just 5 minutes of those chords. A, D, E, and A on loop like that over and over. Here's how that first lick over the A major chord sounds. So you can see how we're starting off here with that flat third, sliding up a half step to the major third, right? Going to the root. Little back and forth like a typical blues lick. Again, there's that flat 5 right there from the blues scale. And then we play this lick. flat 5, 4, flat third, regular third, root. Again, that can seem kind of mysterious if you're not thinking of it as being just your blues scale that you know so well, and every time you touch these notes, you go up a half step. Now at this point in the backing track, the chord changes to D. And this is something you've got to understand about country playing that is so much different than rock and blues playing. Okay, country changes are essentially blues changes a lot of the times. You know, A, D, E, A. Those are typical blues changes. And if you're a typical blues player, you'll just be like, okay, I'll play the A blues scale over all of those. And it'll sound cool if you're playing over a blues riff, like a Stevie Ray Vaughan solo or something like that. That'll sound fine. Country players don't do that. They react to chords more like jazz players do, where they don't see it as a one scale fits all. Remember I said in the intro I was just trying to play E major over Folsom Prison Blues and it sounded stupid? That's because that's not how country players play. They react to the chords and move ideas around to suit a new chord. As for why, let me just give you a quick little bit of insight about that. So, you know, we're playing over A. So we're hearing all of these ideas reacting to that root note of A that we have in our ears, right? Now, if you play all those same things against a D, it's going to sound really bad because those intervals that we're playing mean something completely different to D. It's not like this. Like that does not sound right at all, you know? That's because to D, this is a flat 7, major 7, 5, 4, 2. So it would be flat 9. Like none of that stuff makes any sense. So if you're playing around with typical country 1-4-5 kind of changes, move this idea whenever the chord changes. So now instead of playing our A blues scale with that lilt, whenever the chord changes to D, we're going to be playing our D blues scale with that little lilt added. So move with the chords. Don't go for one scale fits all, okay? Here's the lick that I played over the D chord. I'm going to show you some other stuff about this later too that'll make it sound more authentic. Okay, starting from the root of the scale, here's our lilt, blues scale, kind of walking up like that, walking straight up, and then probably the most important country lick you can learn. If we're thinking of D as our root, it's like 4th, root, flat third, regular third, root. That's just country stuff 101. Bonus points if you use some hybrid picking and really snap that G like that. You don't have to, but it sounds more authentic if you do. So over the D. Now the chord changes to E. So again, we're going to be moving our ideas around to an E kind of tonal center. And the lick that I played is a little double stop thing that really illustrates how you can use these things. Sounds like this. That's like, again, very typical country stuff. So again, if you're thinking of that blues scale, or that blues Dorian thing, the Santana scale, you can kind of look at that as a great opportunity to play some double stops because we have these two notes in the scale, right? There's that flat third though. So remember, what do we do when we touch a flat third? We go up a half step to a regular third. Root, come right down. Because again, if you're thinking of the Dorian thing, you have access to those two notes, right? Back to root, and then that same move you started with. Just like that. And again, you can pick all that. It starts to sound more like rockabilly if you do. If you want to make it sound more authentic, use these two fingers, your middle and ring, to pluck the G and B. You don't have to have nails or anything, I don't. And then use kind of like a slightly palm muted pick stroke on that root note right there and make it kind of cluck at you. that, and that's the E lick that I played. Now, whenever it goes back around to A, I played some double stops that sound like this. I think I subconsciously ripped these off from Hulk Hogan's theme song. So say your prayers and take your vitamins and learn these double stops right here. So again, starting off here on root and fifth, going down the scale. It's kind of an Angus Young style sort of thing to do right there. And then, okay, so here's one thing. I'm going to contradict myself here. I told you earlier, every time you play a flat third to yank it up, you can get away with not doing that every time. But as long as you end on it, it sounds like you understand the language. So you can use that flat third, but then after that, you got to kind of correct yourself, you know? So after you play those, we got root, and then another double stop, this time with the rising third, and then root, flat 7, and root. And that's it. So the mindset is when you're playing over major chords, use minor pentatonic with that raising third, and then move that around to suit the chords as it's going along. You're going to sound pretty convincingly country for a rock guy in no time if you use that mentality. Now, if you come across a country progression that has like a minor chord in it, just use minor pentatonic over it. So if there was, for example, like an F sharp minor in there, I would just use F sharp minor pentatonic over it. But over those major chords, use the strategy that we're talking about, and you're going to be good to go. Now you can take these ideas even more further depending on how well you know your minor pentatonic positions. Most of us learned this one first, but maybe you also know like the next position, which some people recognize as the major pentatonic scale. Now it's a little awkward, but we can still do the same magic to this and make it sound more country if every time we play any of the C notes in there, the flat thirds, we just yank them up a half step. Pretty cool. You can do that with all 5 positions as long as you stay conscious of where those flat thirds are and always yank them up a half step. Now, I want to say one more thing about the way that we're doing this here, which in my opinion is very rudimentary, where we just took this big box scale, and then when the chord changed, we moved it over to this big box, and then when the chord changed, we moved it again. That's a good way to get your fingers around this stuff, but that's not the finish line, and that's not how you end up sounding really authentic. Because if you watch a lot of country guys play, you won't really see them doing that, picking up big boxes and moving them around. Partially because it's hard to sound smooth and get a good flow going when you're jumping up and down the neck like that to follow the chords. And also sometimes the tones just don't really sound exactly right if you're really familiar with this accent. So like for example, whenever we go to that second lick over the D chord, right? We don't really have to jump up to the 10th position. If I know how to find that D minor pentatonic scale from the nearest available D, like this one, I could make that lick happen and not change positions and break my flow. I could do this. Same thing whenever it goes to the E, right? Instead of, I could do all that stuff in a different position, like this. And if anything, that kind of sounds cooler, you know? Again, I'm thinking about E minor pentatonic being here from this E. I have a video from a couple years ago called like my secret to playing minor pentatonics all over the neck, something like that. Check that out for more information as for how I'm finding these scale patterns, by the way. So, you know, again, there's my E minor pentatonic. So I could do that double stoppy thing, like that right there, and play over all 3 chords without ever jumping up and down the neck. That's the goal that you should be shooting for. You want to be able to play as elegantly as you can and move with those changes without moving up and down the neck too much. It's going to sound better, it's going to feel better. But that's something to work towards while you start off by taking your big boxes that we talked about and just moving them up and down the neck to suit the chord changes that you're playing over at that time. So there you go, guys, from shred to cornbread in just one lesson using one easy trick. Hopefully that helps you guys out and gets you some good ideas going for how to fake your way through your next country gig. But of course, the best way to be prepared is to practice at home first, which is why I recommend grabbing those downloadable backing tracks that I made over on the Patreon page. There's a fast one as well as a slow one that'll be a little bit easier to get around, especially if you're working around like playing in one position like we were talking about. That slow track is really gonna be what you want to do to get that stuff up to speed and make it start working in your playing. So don't delay, sign up today to that Patreon page. You'll get tons of other extra stuff too. So be sure to click that Patreon link in the video description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for new content coming at you every single week, and ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but myself, I think it's time that I go slop the hogs and feed the chickens and paint a fence and all kinds of other country shit. And as for you guys, I recommend taking this newly found knowledge, getting away from the computer, grabbing your favorite guitar, and doing some country stuff. Less clicking, more picking. Or wait, less clicking, more chicken. Picking. It works.